What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McAllister, and today I got my brother on here, somebody who's been in my life now for, it's been about a year now.
That's right.
My brother, Theo Burgess, he's a, I'm going to pipe him up here. He's a national champion collegiate athlete for football. If you guys can't tell, I played a little bit myself too, high level. I decided not to go to the league though and focus on my podcasting. If only that was true. But anyways, bro, I'm pumped that you're here, man. So Theo's a school teacher. He's a father. He's a husband. But most importantly, and I know he'll tell you the same thing, is that he's a follower of Christ. As you guys know, I only have people on this podcast who are really about that life, because I just know the knowledge and wisdom and all the things that you bring. But also when we're not followers of Christ, I can't have people on here because that's the number one thing that is going to grow your marriage. It's going to grow you, and it's going to grow, as a parent and all those other things. So, bro, I could talk you up forever, but welcome to the podcast, man.
Oh, thank you, man. That intro made me blush a little bit. You might not be able to tell on camera, but yeah, for sure.
Oh, man. Dude, so it was about like last October when you came into my life, I think.
That's right. It was actually almost exactly a year ago. So it was my birthday was the first meeting. I think you weren't there, so it was a week later at your house. We were reading Point Man by Doug Farrar, I want to say his name is. And I had to catch up 6 chapters in that book or whatever just to get up with you guys. And I liked how even from the very first beginning, I just joined the text thread, and it was like, get the book, catch up. And that kind of set the standard for how we get down. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna on-ramp you. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna this is the book, this is where we are. Come on in, catch up, and let's get with this conversation so we can start growing. Yeah.
And what I love what you said about that, because one, you did, and two, the very first time, because just to give you guys out there a little bit of context. So on Saturday mornings, we do a Bible study at my house, and there's about 10 of us. And from the beginning, it was just a God story of how the group came together. But I just put out a bold message of like, if you're going to be in this Bible study, it's not just to come and eat some donuts and maybe we'll talk about some Jesus and that's about it. It was like we were going to set the standard, and that's not like bragging or anything, but I just needed that in my life at that time. And so anytime we brought anybody new on, it was always kind of like, like, is this person going to fit? Do I got to kind of like tiptoe around them, or are we going to offend them? But because we just let it rip. And from day one, it was like you had been there for the whole time from the beginning. You were just speaking with authority and speaking your knowledge and your wisdom on that, and came out the gate, dude. So it was so cool just to have you that way. Have you always been that type of person that just like, this is just who I am and I'm going to let it rip? Or was that a maturation process to get to that? Because I know so many men hide behind a shell of themselves and don't ever let their authentic self really come out. And I have got authentic Theo from day one.
Man, that's a good question, bro. I grew up super shy.
Okay.
I remember, I can tell you that after my freshman year of college, I got a job at a department store specifically so I can learn how to small talk people. Hi, how are you? Your name is, my name is, shake the hand, look you in the eye. And from working at that department store, the store was called Hex, which like in Maryland was like a Kohl's kind of store or whatever. I got to dress in a suit, wear a shirt and tie, and I got to shake hands 150 times a day. After that, then I broke out of my shell and realized how important it was to be able to like communicate to people importantly and quickly, talk to people, look them in the eye, shake their hands, be like, yo, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And then I did a job, what's it called on the phone? Telemarketing. You know what I'm saying? In the telemarketing, the one thing I took away, I don't remember what we were doing even so long ago, but you get people to say yes 5-10 times in a row. Hey, is this Tommy? Yeah. At so-and-so address? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you talk to people, you learn to make them smile, and you say, hey, what's up? And you break down. Now they want me to be me because I'm friendly to them. I'm not hiding some great secret. So it's something I've had a maturation process, something I've had to lean into and just kind of get to a certain point where I feel confident in myself that I'm not hiding anything. If you don't like me at this point and we're not working together, we can go our separate ways. You know what I'm saying? So I hadn't had that problem in the Bible study though group though. You guys had welcomed me with open arms. The way that you set up everything, we all sit in a circle. We pray to begin. We do a little bit of small talk about our week, and then we get to business. And I think that like process, that protocol helped me feel really comfortable because I like getting to business. You know what I'm saying? We'll do small talk. Hey, what's up? And we learn about each other as we're conducting like our process and our protocol, like as our business, like Well, this week, what did you do to be a better husband? This week, what did you do to be a better father? How did this book help you? And then through that, we learn about each other rather than just small talking about football or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Dude, so well said on that. And then I can touch on multiple points, but small talk has been this thing with me more so recently, where I've been in groups of different people who I would have been super, I don't want to say, because I wasn't uncomfortable, but where I've been talking with people and I'm like say like 3 or 4 words, and I'm not that guy. Like I can blah, 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 with the best of them these days, but I just get super uncomfortable because I just want to, like, I don't want to waste my time with anything. Like, let's talk about something meaningful. And that's where I feel connection. I don't feel connection talking about like, yeah, no, the weather's really nice today and things like that. But one thing you said, dude, is that, I love what you said, because about working, you were super shy. You were in a spot where you had to shake hands, do that, then telemarketing. I mean, that's similar thing with me. I was the shyest kid in my high school, things like that. And
really
yeah, dude, I didn't kiss a girl till after high school. Like, dude, and like, was super shy, right? People wouldn't know that now. They don't know the process.
Right.
But I went through the same process where God had me in jobs like that. And so oftentimes where I want to encourage the men out there, whether that's now or in the past, that's where we can see God placing us in positions to develop us now, because you're a school teacher, you run a faith-based football program, you mentor people, you personal train people, things that you have to have connection with. If you don't have that, you're not doing it. So I guess what I'm saying is, what I love what God does is sometimes it's John 13:7. You don't realize now what I'm doing, but later you'll understand. You don't understand in the beginning then that like he's developing you for what you're going to be able to do later on. Same thing now. He's developing you for something a year from now or 3 years from now. So a lot of the men who I know coming to listen to this or coming to coaching, they're like, man, I just want that transformation now. I don't understand it all. And it's like, dude, let God do his thing. You don't see what he's doing now, but I promise you, the same way you went through cold calling people, having just to shake hands, developed you to the person that I know now. That's just easy to talk to, and you would never know that you were shy.
Yeah, it rarely comes at the pace you want it to come at. You know what I'm saying? But once you be able to submit yourself to God's timeline, that's truly what faith is. This is for the better. And if it's in God's hands, it is for the better. You know what I'm saying? So whether or not you can see it or you can't, the faith is knowing that it is for the better. So, like he put me in those jobs. He put me in that school. He put me even, like I say, like, I'll give you an example. So I was an assistant principal I was a dean of students for 4.5 years. I was not very good at that job. Like, I remember praying before I went on my first interview, please let me get this job. Let me get this job. And I imagine God being like, here you go, bro. So first interview, got the job. Boom. I worked 2 years at that school, go to 2 years in another school. And the paperwork, the pressure, the fact that mentally I could never just work a job where the job's never actually done. Like, at least in my age anyway, I couldn't do that. But during that first stint at the first school, I met a person who wound up becoming a principal at the high school that I work at now. And she gave me a call. She said, look, I need somebody who loves kids and loves fitness in that order. And through our conversations that we had at that school, even though I had flamed out, now I have a job as a strength and conditioning coach at a high school, which is I was able to pivot my passions from teaching English to teaching this instead. And now, God's got to be behind that. You know what I'm saying? So you go behind all that. The whole time, like, man, I don't like this job. I'm tired. I had to take a $10,000 pay cut to get out of it. Talk to my wife about it, this and that. God's like, money's not everything, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to put you in a position where you can influence people with the talents that I've given you, the skills that you've honed. And now I get to talk and teach and communicate with kids with strengths that he's given me. And so you look at it like that, you start to be like, even though I'm going through some hardship or whatever might be happening right now, that transformation will come. It's inevitable.
Yeah, no, so well said on that. And sometimes we need to do something that we think we want, right, to realize it's not what we actually want, right?
Yes.
And then that will be like, cool, that's the process. Because so many people, like, they're trying to find their purpose or a job that they want, but they're like, I'll start it when I figure it out. And it's like, that's how you figure out. You do it, and then you realize now you check it off the box. That's not what I want.
That ain't it.
Yeah. And then you go to the next, right?
Yeah. You got to be a person of doing. As well.
You said something there, because of the pay cut, $10,000, right? Like, that's a lot of money. You have, how many kids do you guys have?
We have 2 children.
2 children, right? And so $10,000 is a lot of money, you know, to be able to take a pay cut on that. How did that play out as the man of the house? You know,
Mm.
with thinking of like our self worth, our pride, all things like that we can do. Because sometimes we value that on how much money we're making. Now we're bringing that to your wife. Like you guys have a great relationship, but I know a lot of these guys, like I know, won't sometimes be willing to do something that's lesser than because of the ego and things like that. I've definitely done that at times. How did that play out at that moment? One, with like pride things, and
Mm.
two, with talking through your wife of that, with like the support of her and things, because a lot of guys just won't even bring it to it and just suck it up and just stay in the job they hate.
Well, I tell you what, man. There was a large part of me that felt because the money that we were making, that we were obligated to stay there and go higher.
Mm.
That's always been kind of
Mm.
the mindset that I've had. You know, once you reach a certain level, whether it's money, fitness, or relationships or whatever, you do not go down. You only go up. You know what I'm saying? But where did that mindset come from? That's not biblical necessarily. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So when I went to my wife, she could already tell that this job was wearing on me. She could already tell, you know, I was short with our newborn son, or he was probably like 2 years old at the time. So yeah, I'd say like probably he's like four and a half at the time.
Mm.
I was short, irritable all the time at home, never really available emotionally or mentally. I was always someplace else. So even though we had money, and we were able to go on vacations, theoretically, we never really could because we were always working. She's an administrator. I'm an administrator at the time. And I had to come to her and say, you know, Stace, you're my best friend. You know, first and foremost, you're my best friend. I can't do this job anymore. And I know it means less money, this and that. And she was like, Theo, I need you to be happy in order to be the man of the house. She was like, I need you to be like fulfilled. And if this job's not doing that for you, then we'll figure out a way to make it work.
Mm.
And, you know, without that kind of support, that kind of soft landing pad, that kind of freedom to be, she really showed God's love right there in that moment. Like she unconditionally loved me for who I was, not how much I made. And that was huge. Me being able to go into the boss and just say like, here's my resignation letter. As soon as I find a job that I want to go to, I'm out of here. And I did. I got back in the classroom, and my wife and I have grown, and that really set the stage for. We didn't know it, but coming up soon was breast cancer and other things. So I actually got a timeline wrong. We actually in the middle of that breast cancer at that time. So we had a different appreciation of life versus the job fulfillment and all this kind of stuff. Because her and I met in school to become administrators. So that was part of the vision that we had or whatever. But, you know, God has his own plan. And when I could come to my wife humbly and give up my, not say dream per se, but what I thought was my dream at that time, you realize a bigger dream is to build a home. You can't do that when I'm short, irritable, angry, and unable to be emotionally available for the people in my house.
Dude, so good. Because that's so true, right? Like I see so many men who take, like we have a priority list that we have, and business should come last for us all, but most of us put it at the top. And then because we think we're being great men because we're working hard and we're providing a living, and that's what we're supposed to do as men, is to provide. Yes, provide not just a living, provide happiness, joy, peace, stability.
All
like
those things get swept under the rug sometimes for guys, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But you're absolutely right. Creating a home, not just a house,
Yeah.
not just buying a house, you know, creating a home, that is where a lot of the work needs to happen. Where we as men, I would say, like, we have to grow. I don't think that's necessarily like in our default hardwiring to be able to have emotional space for children and women and our wives. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. No, it's so true. Oh man, I was going to jump in on something that you had. Oh, yes, the vulnerability. So you being able to tell her, had you been talking about, I mean, obviously she saw it, like you're saying, you know, irritable, things like that, could see that you're not the joyful person that she married, right? Because oftentimes that's where I get from so many men. They're like, I don't understand, like, why my wife, we used to have so much intimacy in the beginning or so much fun and all this. And it's like, well, dude, if you become, and I'm not like just saying, but like maybe what Theo was becoming there, irritable, not fun to be around. That's not the person that like married her. She didn't go, oh, this person's awesome. He's irritable and he's not fun to be around. Let's get married and have kids.
Right. No.
So with that being said, besides her just seeing it and living with you that way, had you been talking like just being vulnerable with her and opening up about like, hey babe, I'm really not like happy. This is why I'm irritable. I feel like sharing your feelings through that.
Yeah, well, those conversations came about partially because I had attempted to get promoted through the assistant principal pool multiple times, and I got denied multiple times. I wasn't able to, for whatever reason, wasn't able to progress past the state to the position I was, from the position where I was. And so, when looking at it, when you're a first level administrator at a middle school or high school, the first thing they give you is behavior. They want you to learn how to deal with all the bullying, all the drugs, weapons, stuff that happens in the school. Every other administrator is happy they don't have to do it because they already did it. They're happy to get rid of it. And so I used to come home every day and be like, those kids at school don't obey me. My kid needs to obey me. You know what I'm saying? A whole different kind of attitude. When Stacy could see that I wasn't going to be able to move past, and we talked that we, kind of had those discussions a little bit over time before I made that final decision, it was pretty obvious that it wasn't sustainable for me, whether I had to get out of the profession or whether I just had to get out of the position. Either way, it wasn't going to be able to happen long term. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love that you were able to just talk about that, right? Because so many men, would just quit or just suck it up, run, and one of the two things without discussing it with their spouse, right? So you had the confidence to be able to go and put it in and felt good, the peace, because she is supporting you through that, and you're able to share those things. And I just know from so many men, they just don't open up and share. Like, vulnerability is not a thing. And I get it, because maybe they have, and it's been used against them, or they did it the wrong way, or we shared it during an argument rather than just like you coming in and just being like, babe, I don't know what's going on, but I don't think this is for me. And so it's so huge for so many men to be able to do that. So I see that's like was a blessing in it.
Absolutely.
But what else you also said was like, your wife was going through breast cancer at that time, and Romans 8:28, right? Now, God I don't think he did it so you wouldn't be in the position there, right? But now you're realizing, dude, like, this is life and death situation to a certain extent right here, right? Money don't matter anymore. I think we get a real quick thing of like, we're trying to maximize life and enjoy each other. Like, and so God's like showing you that through that to be able to get these offside lessons, where sometimes in life we don't take lessons from hardships. We just think, well, my wife's going through breast cancer. This sucks, which does suck.
It does. But, God, in your weakness, God is made perfect, right? God's able to show his strength through the times where you say, like, I can't do this no more. Whether it's I can't, I won't, stop, I submit, whatever, however you say it yourself. Now you allow God to come in and work with his power. That you know what I'm saying. Then miracles can happen, and even if not miracles per se, amazing things can happen. And so Stacy's always been my best friend since we met. That's how we always have a great relationship, because we're able to talk and hang around each other. Even when we have silent moments, we're cool. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to always be talking. But so I can share with her 85% of my life easy. Now that last 15%, that's what we've had to chip away at over time with tougher conversations. And why are you acting this way? Why didn't you tell me that? Why are you holding this against me? Those kind of things that intimate, long-term relationships eventually wind up showing. So I can empathize with other guys who hold back. But if I didn't have Stacy to talk to, I'd be a wreck. You know what I'm saying? She's a blessing. She's always been a best friend for me since we've ever met.
Amen, bro. Because that's how it should be. I always tell people that, like, remember when we were kids, we got like our best day was when we like stayed at our best friend's house. That was the best day of our life. We get to do that now every day.
That's right.
Every day.
Right.
Like, we should be jumping for joy.
It's a sleepover.
Every day, So that's what we need to get it to. Now that can be removed because of our maybe work situation, life situation, hardships such as cancer. Those can come in, but it depends on how. That's why having faith as like our number one will allow us to handle those farther better. Like what you just said, God's power is in our weakness, is really shine. And it's like the beginning of that verse, right? Is like, my grace is sufficient, you know? And,
we didn't do anything for that, Joe.
Yeah.
We didn't do nothing for that. We didn't earn it. We didn't deserve it. That's just how great his love is.
Yeah.
Like, he woke us up today. He gave us another shot today. He put you in position to meet your future wife. You know what I'm saying? He allowed you to get married. He allowed you to have children. He allowed you to have difficulties and come closer together through communication and be able to give thanks to him. Now, that last part is our job. We have to be aware enough to give thanks to him instead of being like, we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what I love about what you do. And this particular podcast is it's space to be able to give thanks to him and recognize all the things he does in our life.
Mm. Yeah, well, thank you, bro.
Yeah.
It was cool, man. I'm just gonna touch on this for a second. Is I had somebody on the last episode, Kale Owen. You know who Alex Ramosi is?
Yes. Yeah.
So Kale's his CEO
Oh,
of
wow.
one of his businesses, and I met him randomly earlier this year. We were speaking at the similar event, and like same thing, it was like same thing you would do with him. Like one, he's fit, so typically you can kind of see discipline and like, okay, we see each other here. And two, like as soon as we met, it was like we were just swapping Bible verses and same thing.
Nice.
Anyways, he was on the podcast, and same type of conversation we're having here. And then I shared it in my stories on Instagram when the episode came out, and he shared it, but he put it like his own like quote over the top of like this, when you reshare somebody's, you can put your own dialogue. He said, "This is the most I've ever talked about my faith publicly before."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's odd. Not like I was like looking down on him. I was just like, I just felt like that was a normal conversation, and that was a normal conversation for him. But I think he's such, and he doesn't not do it. He's just really in like his business gym launch. He's in with Alex Ramosi's not a believer. So you know what I'm saying? Like he's in these worlds, but just like we can just get to ripping on God so much.
We're secretly always looking for someone to be able to share with. Man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, remember how you, when you were single, when you were young, right? You could look across the room and you could spot somebody and they look at you and they give eye contact and the vibes, right? Now it's like the similar kind of thing, but versus, right? Like I can tell you're a believer. I'm a believer. Now, can we just open up and be happy together and be grateful together and share our verses and our knowledge and not have to worry about like somebody being like, I'm not a believer. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like they get really offended or something like that. When believers get to meet each other, most of us are ready to pour out, man. That's how I feel.
Yeah, because there's like as weird as it is, there are levels to the game, right? There's people who just believe, and that's cool. That's where they stop, and then maybe they're like weekend warriors. They would rather talk about the other stuff. Right. I met with some guys. Me and Diane are going out to Texas in February to speak at a conference out there, and they would just have those people from that church. Just happened to be in Vegas this weekend, so we met up for coffee for yesterday. Nice. And after like an hour and a half, they're like, "Man, sorry, we've been talking about God the whole time." He's like, they apologized, and I was like, "Dude," I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even know." I was like, "Dude, that's I go, we could talk about this for eight hours, dude." I'm like, don't want to stop. So it's just funny how though, like it's just
it's supposed to be so important part of your life. Yeah, and you might want to be with four dudes to realize you talked about football for the past 2 hours about guy zero. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, don't apologize, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad you made them feel open with that.
Yeah,
like, we were waiting to talk about it. Like, I don't want to put no limits on that.
Yeah. And it's just cool to be able to just, I don't know, I feel like you have to understand people because especially when we know God like that, then we usually are vulnerable and open. Like they tell me all their deep, dark secrets right out the gate and I barely know them. And the same thing with me, and then you're like connected because you're vulnerable on all of that. One thing I know that's been a part of your journey that I've been able to watch is the search for dopamine in certain areas of life. You know, and this is for anybody, dude. We're all dopamine junkies this day and age, especially because of social media and that we want everything now. That it's such a hard part of life. And I know that's where a lot of men are searching for. They're just always searching for this dopamine hit, whether that's their wife affirming them, whether that's wife having sex with them, something, right? Or they have, unfortunately, most men struggle with porn, substance abuse, whether that's just alcohol or maybe weed or something, or food, right? It's not always something that's inherently bad, or maybe it's money or working, right? We have all of these things, and it's been cool to watch because you already came in as a high level person. But I remember, one specific when I did that event at my house, you had a little pushback on a couple of the things that I was saying. Like, I don't think it's that bad that I smoke some weed every now and then. And you were still kind of struggling with, I think, I hope you don't mind I'm throwing your dirt on here.
It's all good, baby. It's all good.
I probably should have asked before,
but defeated.
But you were like, I still struggle with like, pouring a little bit here and there. And it's like this battle, but and I think with like more was like more around the weed stuff. I don't want to say justifying it by any means, but in the past, I guess like 6 months, man, like, I don't even know what the streak's at now with like, you've just been killing it and all these other things. I've watched this maturation process that's been going on, and you're already amazing. Like I said, you came in as an amazing, amazing person, but it's just cool to watch that growth. So I'd love to touch on it because those things are dopamine hits that we all struggle with. And I know you said you struggled with them at night, looking for a little dopamine hit at the end of the day.
For sure, man. And so what I've realized is like, rule number one is like, don't stay up past 10:30. Right,
Nothing
stay up
good
past
happens past
10:30.
then.
Yeah, man. Like now I'm desperate. I'm looking for some food to snack on, or I'm looking for something to look at, or something like, just get to bed. Pop up on your Kindle, start reading, you'll get right to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Video games or whatever. Like that's not even worthwhile time to really invest. I'd rather be fresh when I wake up at 6 a.m. You know what I'm saying? To go walk the dogs or whatever. Dopamine searching, man. I think the most dangerous thing about searching for dopamine is that a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it. You ever heard that Lecrae song Zombie?
I probably.
Man, I had to come up with the lyrics on this one, but it's like you really do wind up going around like on autopilot, like something like the little brain takes over and you are now searching for something. Your good mind is shut off and your flesh is taken over, and I'm searching for something until I get it. Whether it's chocolate, whether it's porn, whether it's I want a positive affirmation from another woman or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And now I have much more purpose. I'm much more in touch with it. I'm with you and 7 other dudes, and I don't feel alone in my struggle. So this is the number one thing. Like, I don't feel alone in my struggle. That was probably the biggest, I'd say the biggest factor is knowing that, like, oh, okay, it's not just a me, I'm defective kind of thing. Nah, man, we're all men, and we want thrill, buzz. You know what I'm saying? We want to feel strong and viral, whatever the word is. We want to feel certain ways, but feelings aren't the same as facts. You know what I'm saying? So you might go search for porn and you feel a certain way, but the fact is you broke down and you're weak. Mm-hmm. And you probably know that because 5 minutes after it was over, you felt ashamed. And when we were having the discussion at the mastermind, I was every once in a while probably popping gummies like once every couple weeks or something like that, once a week or something like that. Like, oh, I have a little gummy and it's cool. I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in all 2024. I put that down. Haven't practiced self-gratification in over 7 months. Like that's, and so as we continue to starve the flesh, you begin to understand why it needs to be starved. Because now there's more mental bandwidth, emotional bandwidth, and spiritual bandwidth for what your actual purpose is. And the flesh is so loud, so strong that in that conversation that we were having, that probably wasn't even me talking. That was my flesh, like, defending its existence. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's been quite a journey that our Bible study group has played a huge role in. And it's been transformational. Yeah.
I mean, it's just cool to see what's possible in life. Like I love what you said, because you have like the accountability. One, you also recognize when you get the danger zone, so you remove yourself from that. I'm not staying up past 10:30, or a lot of guys are like, oh, I can still hang out with these friends who may be doing all these other things. I'm not going to do it though. Yeah, and it's like, stay that long enough, eventually will. Stay at past 10:30 long enough, eventually you will.
You'll give in,
and then you crack the door, and you don't get to just walk back out. Now it starts a habit again, and the next thing you know, it goes to these other spots, and then you're struggling. The flesh it's a wild one. This past, like, I don't want to say 10 days, the theme of my life has been spiritual warfare. It was really weird, like how that's been happening. So he didn't meet him, but I have a client who came out. His name's Phil, and he gave me a book on spiritual warfare. And I was like, oh, sweet. I wasn't planning on going down the spiritual warfare rabbit hole, like, specifically for the past 10 days, but God, I think, was pre-framing it for me.
Yeah.
So anyways, gives me this book. And then on last week's Monday night call I do for my clients, like a group Zoom, I spoke on Ephesians 6, putting on the armor of God.
That's right. That's right.
So I went in really about that. And then I was like, man, that's weird. I was had spiritual warfare the day before. Then I had Kale, the guy I was telling you about, who spoke about his faith last week on the podcast. I didn't even ask him about spiritual warfare. And like the very first thing he brought up was like, man, I feel like there's really strong spiritual warfare happening in our country right now. He says, on my phone, it says, like, we're at war. He says, I'm really leaning into Ephesians 6. And I'm like, bro, I just taught on Ephesians 6 last night. And so it was just weird, guy. And then somebody else in our group put out Ephesians 6, who wasn't on the call on Monday night. They posted about Ephesians 6. And I was like, something's going on here where God's really doing that, right?
That's right.
But we need to have that armor of God on. We need to be able to strengthen ourselves so we can fight those battles, so we don't have to give in. Because what you said is, like, 5 minutes after we watch porn, or we eat a tub of ice cream, or whatever we do, or we yell at our wife, we feel that every single time. It's undefeated. And the devil's so smart, dude. Like, 5 minutes before we masturbate or whatever, he's like, come on, man. Like, you reward yourself. What's the
Right.
big
You
deal?
deserve it.
Then as soon as you're done, he
Yeah.
changes it. He's like,
Like,
oh, you're a loser.
yep.
He's like the
I
worst
can,
friend ever.
I
Not a
can imagine like a
friend.
bully in the 80s movie doing the exact same thing. That's exactly, yeah. It's the mental game is crazy like that. And when you are the mind governed by the flesh, I think it's Romans 8, 5 through 8. The mind governed by the flesh is death. The mind governed by the spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh cannot submit to God. It was hostile to God. It cannot submit to God. It's hostile to God's law. It cannot submit, nor it does not submit, nor can it do so. That like that part, that distinction, it does not submit to God, nor can it. Like it's just not possible. If you're, and in the last line is those who live in the realm of the flesh cannot please God. So you can't just be on the offensive. You can't just have your sword, which is the word of God, and go around just waving around like, and then you're in the back, you're smoking weed and you're masturbating and you're watching porn and this and that. Like, nah, man, you have to have your defenses up. You have to have your guard up. You have to have your shield, which extinguishes the flaming arrows of the evil one. You have to have a solid foundation and base in order for you to go on the offensive. You know what I'm saying? And so, since I've been with you guys, and I think October 7th, I went to Hope Church's men's group last year. Like, I've been dedicating myself to memorizing Bible verses. That's helped me actually put together all these random, seemingly random fortune cookie type scriptures. You know what I'm saying? And now, no. They're not random. They're not just pick one at the feeling that you choose at the time. No, these things all fit together. And you got to spend the time to sit there and reflect on it and put it in your heart and be like, yeah, man, you either got to give that up so you can go this way, or you're just going to continue to go this way and you're going to be a pretender.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest thing about meeting with you guys every Saturday and being a pretender. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to come into the meeting on Saturday and be like, just talking. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, good job, Theo. And see, I'm leaving out like, man, fooled him again. 7 more days. I can't live like that, man. And that's been a huge revelation for me over the past year.
And what would you say the fruit of that has been in your life? Because a lot of times guys are like, well, now I can't have fun in my life if I can't do that stuff. Like, come on, man. We got to like enjoy life too, which is weird that people think that enjoying life has to do with sinful fleshly things. And that's how we enjoy. Like, come on, man. You got to have the pizza. You got to have the beer. You can masturbate some time to time. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
So like we can tell people to remove this, but it's like we've also, God said, or Jesus says, you'll know my people by their fruit, right? So what would you say the fruit of that is? Is it more peace? Is it more confidence? Is it more blessings? What would you say that's
absolutely been? More peace. More peace is the number one, I would say, because I don't have to be at war with that thing. I don't have to be at war with alcohol. Done. Decision made January 1st. Done. February 22nd, I finished with self-gratification. Done. The decision was made. And the longer you go, I'll say the easier, but the less often the battles come. You know what I'm saying? They're not as intense as they used to be, or sometimes they are, but you don't want to break it now because you have a prideful streak. I hate to say that word prideful in that way, but you know, you have something that you're proud of and you want to continue to obey as a fruit, obedience as a fruit of what you're doing. I think that when people argue about, man, you can't have a drink, you're like, look, some people can, right? Some people can have a drink and they're cool with it. I'm just not one of them. And I'm at peace knowing that now. You know what I'm saying? Before I might have been like, oh, I'm going to have a drink tonight. I'm cool, just one. And then when I have the one, I'm halfway through it. And I'm like, I want another one.
Yeah.
Should I have another one? But I said, is anybody looking at me? I don't think anybody really cares, do they? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all happening internally while I'm shaking hands and saying hello to people. Like, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Dude. Now I can actually just say, hey, how are you? How's it going? Let me listen to you when you talk instead of having this internal battle going on. And I can actually be authentic with people. So peace, confidence, and just being open to people. I think that's been, and it having more energy to be able to push towards what he really wants me to do. as far as telling my testimony and leading more people to Christ, working with kids and things. Yeah.
Yeah, amen. Dude, I have that same exact battle when I used to drink, and it would be for the last, so I probably haven't drank for a couple of years now, but even then it was like maybe 1 or 2 beers a year. And every single time I would have that 1 or 2 beers, the whole time I would be like, am I feeling different? Do I feel better? Do I feel worse? Okay, should I have another one? I don't know if I should have another one. I'm gonna feel bad
It is
tomorrow.
crazy.
It's just like this.
It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't worth it because of what's going on
I'm
in
not
my
even
head.
enjoying it.
No.
Not even enjoying it. Right. And then you might drink more just to shut yourself up.
Yeah.
Which is the whole problem to begin with. You're just not happy with yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tell you a funny story. I shared my goals with my family as far as alcohol. And when my best friend for life came up over the 4th of July weekend, and I asked my son, I was like, hey, man, I just want to throw this at you. You know, I'm thinking about when Sean comes up, when my friend comes up, I was like, I'm thinking about having a drink. I was like, what do you think about that? He was like, nah. He said, nah, you said you don't want to do it anymore, so don't do it. And I was like, well, since you said that, that means you're watching. You know what I'm saying? Like, had I not asked and I had it, he just would have watched and developed an opinion about commitment, about discipline, about his father on his own and kept it on the inside. But because I asked, I got to hear what he thought. And I said, man, Streets is watching, as they say. You know what I'm saying? He's watching. Okay. Now I can be more invigorated to the discipline because I know he's watching. So that streak maintained. Yeah.
See, that's so powerful because the line, and I didn't come up with this line, but it's always says, what is caught is taught, right? Somebody is always watching, whether that's your wife, your kids, somebody.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's one of the 2 main reasons I don't drink. Number one being because I don't want anybody to ever mistake the words out of my mouth to not just be, that's who Tommy is. But they're going to be like, is he just excited me and like pouring life into me or joking with me right now or telling how amazing it is because this guy has a drink in his hand? I want them to know that's just who I am.
I got you.
And never question that. And 2, like what you said, like some people can handle it. And I'll say it, dude, it's very small percentage of people that can just get away with having that. I don't want everybody give anybody permission to be like, Tommy has an amazing marriage. Tommy's physically fit. Tommy's got a successful business, great friends. So if he can have a drink, I can have a drink.
Right. Not
knowing that I have no problem with only having one and I have no addictive personality.
Right.
And I don't say anything stupid when I get drunk. They might not be that person.
Right.
Then now I'm giving them permission.
And I want you to find out via me, right?
Yeah.
Via you. Yeah.
So then they're already wrestling with it, but now they look up to me. And I'm not saying like, oh, they look up to me, but they're very well my people too, right? And so now they're thinking they can do it. So I just don't want to ever have those options. And it just never, honestly, man, and like I enjoyed it I think to a certain extent, just because my life matched it. My life was at such low points. It matched at the point where I did enjoy it when I was, 20, 21. And then it got to a point where I was no longer enjoying just getting hammered, right?
If you think about cigarettes and alcohol, the first time anybody has either one of those, they hate it. You have to force yourself to enjoy both of those things. And that right there should tell you something. You know what I mean? And so it just kind of tells you that you're willing to be conditioned in order to get to a state of mind and heart to have a good time when before you drank, you had good times, no problem. Most people, you know what I'm saying? You're able to have a good time just playing with your friends, hanging out, doing whatever. Time with the people that you love is a good time. You don't need to, we no longer need that. And so I think there's also kind of bouncing off what you're saying is I want to say it's in First Timothy when he talks about leaders, when he describes leaders and their character, reputable, have a good marriage, leading his kids. I'm paraphrasing, but he definitely says sober. You know what I'm saying? Sober minded. And there's something to be said about even after you drink, when you're done drinking, the next day you're affected from the alcohol that's still in your system. Before you go to a party, you're affected mentally about what's gonna happen before you get to that party. So even if that party is only like 4 hours, maybe 4 hours before and 12 hours afterwards, the alcohol is all inside your system in one way or another. And so I would just rather, do without that and be able to have a better relationship with my kids and family.
Yeah. And with the Lord, right? Because
let's be real.
It can block it in certain ways. Like now we're not feeling the Spirit. There's times when we just have a conversation, you're just feeling the Spirit moving,
Yeah.
Like now you're kind of numbing that. You're not sure if it's the Lord or the drink, right?
Right.
Those things. And it's tough because pain is such a hard thing. Uncomfortableness is such a hard thing. We all we all go through it at different levels. Like, and I think it's like John 15 where it talks about like being pruned, you know, so we get more fruit. To get more fruit, you need to prune the tree. And that's what God just keeps doing to us. We grow and then he needs to prune us again, and it's not fun. But it's like if we need a beer at the end of the day, or that's something else because we're feeling stress or anxiety or depression or whatever that is, and we need something to take it away, we're not fixing the problem, we're masking it, right? So instead of just sitting in that pain and being like, well, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
What's the lesson I need to get from this?
Yeah.
So I don't have to feel this way anymore. But if I just drink a beer and it goes away for the few hours or that night, that's coming back the next day. It's not going away.
Right.
So sit through the pain, figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you harness the power to do that again when the next pain comes in your life, and you'll be able to remove those.
And those become strongholds. You know what I'm saying? And in 2 Corinthians 10:4-5, it says, like, you know, we have, on the contrary, we have divine power to demolish strongholds, the weapons that we fight with. You know what I'm saying? They're not the weapons the world uses. We have divine power to demolish strongholds, and we knock down every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God or whatever. But like the words of God demolish strongholds. So if you need that beer at the end of the day, and if you're sitting here, and if you give yourself the opportunity with this discomfort, and you're like, beer, be patient and wait. A lot of times all he wants you to do is be patient and wait. Sit and ask yourself, hey, God, what am I supposed to be feeling here? What am I actually reaching out for? What is it that I feel like I want that that I don't currently have? And while you might say relaxation, it might be something else, but you'll never know that if you drink that beer, because you just want that feeling to go away. But that feeling is like a radar system. You know what I'm saying? And so we would need to be able to sit there and talk to God and say, what is this? And even if that feeling that you have is not biblical, is not spiritual, then it's time to get some work done. You know what I'm saying? Part of the reason I don't drink is because I spent, you know, I was shy through school. So I spent a lot of time looking at girls that I could never get with. And when I got to college, alcohol seemed like the great equalizer. you know what I'm saying? Well, we all looking good up in here tonight. So we can all drink, and everybody's probably taking somebody home. So why not you and me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you develop that kind of association now as a 29, 30-year-old married man. I've got 15 years of that, and I'm drinking, and, you know, now you lowered the inhibitions. Now your flesh is reaching out for more and more and more. And now that I'm older and I'm past that, I realized what I was really looking for was closeness. I was looking for intimacy. I was actually lonely on the inside, and I wanted people to accept me.
Yep.
And although for whatever reason, my wife wasn't enough because I hadn't taken the time to be able to fully appreciate her for who she was. And so removing all those things out the way, that's how our relationship has been able to blossom. One of the large parts, because I've been able to remove all those other things out the way, starving the flesh. And now I'm saying, like, this is who really believe. This is who God gave to me. There's no reason. I didn't do anything to deserve that. Nothing. If you were to look at my track record, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you were looking in the deserved category, God threw me an ace. You know what I'm saying? So let's sit back and honor the gift that God gave me, and honor that, not just when I'm with her, but not drinking so that I can honor her, not smoking so I can honor her, not flirting or whatever so that I can honor her. You know what I'm saying? That's also a huge focus of our Saturday groups, is being a high level husband that way, not making eye contact with other women in the same, that kind of way, not looking for vibes, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And so being able to focus all of my energies towards her, tending to her and receiving from her, it's been, our relationship is like a garden. It's blossomed a lot over the past year. Yeah,
that's huge, man. It's so fun. Like, relationships don't have to like die off, you know. They can just they'll get better and better and better and better, just as a relationship with the Father gets there, right? Like, I feel like, and we talked about this on the last podcast with Kale, was like, man, I feel like the older I get, the less I know, because I'm learning more. But then I'm also opening new doors to things, and I'm like, whoa. But that's the same thing with our spouses. It's like, man, they're growing, we're growing, and so we're growing together. So we're learning new things, and all
the person they are today ain't who they was 10 years ago.
Nope.
So you better know this. You better know this person is not who they're gonna be 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're gonna have a hand in shaping your partner, take that responsibility.
Yep.
Listen, speak, advise, guide, forgive, show grace, all those things that God tells us what love is. This is your daily practice of love. It's patient, it's kind, it keeps no record of wrongs, it's not easily angered. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth, doesn't dishonor others. Just take a look at those things and ask yourself, am I doing that with my wife? And when you can look in the mirror and be like, yes, I am, that's peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You can't go wrong with that First Corinthians verse, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, if you, so I heard a spin on this one time, and maybe I'll do it on my group Zoom tonight for the people, but it's like put your name in there before each of those ones.
Yeah,
Theo is patient. Theo is kind. You know what I'm saying? Like,
let's not do that.
You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, for sure.
But it's truth, because then we'll be like, ooh,
yeah.
I don't know. You know, a couple of those. I need to work on that.
Yeah, because those are the fruits of the Spirit. And then when you just sit back and think, that's how God is with us. You know, and for somebody who created the universe and all the stars and all the animals and all the humans, he don't owe us nothing till we talk about we deserve something. Yeah. You worked hard, yeah, sure, in your 2024 existence, of working hard. You know what I'm saying? People in 1400s might have some sort of debate about that.
Yeah,
how hard we're working out here. You know what I'm saying? And so we've been blessed beyond measure in so many ways that it's just easy to get used to it. And so love is the ultimate payback. It's the ultimate way to pay back to God and to the people that he's put around us. I think
it is. There's only been like maybe 2 times that I actually like heard God's voice. The first time I did exactly what he told me not to do, and the next 8 years of my life were terrible.
Oh man!
So don't take that advice.
Learned.
When God says do something, just do it. Which he does in the Bible. Do what it says. It's a template. If you follow it to the T, your life will be amazing. I'm not saying we all follow it perfect to a T, but if you do, good Lord, your life's gonna be a lot better. But the second time, I was just craving God's love, like more, like, God, I just want to draw near to you. I just want to draw so close to you. And what he told me in that moment was, then draw near to my people, then love more on my people. He didn't say, sit down and just kneel and pray to me more. He told me, go love on my people more, and it was such a hit to me, where I was just like, you're right. I need to do that better.
Right.
On how I'm doing, because he's given me, because sometimes people annoy me. Right. And it's like, I don't want to, but it's like, just love on those people more. And that's how I'll feel his love more. And is where, honestly, because one of the questions we posed at the Bible study this weekend was like, where do you feel God the most? Yeah. And my answer is worship music. And then when I'm pouring into somebody is where I feel him the most. It was like, yeah, dude, that's like, then go love on my people. Right. But I didn't realize that till recently. That's where I feel him the most,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm technically an introvert. Right. I've come to believe that maybe that's just a story I tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Since I've been with the crew, and I've been starving the flesh, and I've been moving towards passion and purpose more, I said I feel the Spirit the most after I got finished teaching, after I get finished coaching. Those are things you can't do alone. You can't love alone.
Nope.
You can't do that by yourself. We are not supposed to follow God in a vacuum. Just sit in this room and be like, I'm doing it, God, I'm doing it. We can't do that. We got to get out here. We got to talk to people, and we got to listen to people, and we got to guide people and instruct people and stick to people and have them stick to us. And for God to tell you that has to maybe make you think, like, even if you're not the person right now, when you heard that you think can do that, you will be, because he don't fail. You know what I'm saying? So when he tells you to do that, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like what you said, what we were talking about earlier, how you were doing those jobs to have you prepared for where you're at now.
Yeah.
It wasn't to have you prepared for 3 days later, like
right,
it was for this season now. There was, and I think she's going to come on our podcast, but we were interviewed by her, and there was just something different about it. I think she's late 70s, maybe, marriage coach. Anyways, she blew my mind. I think I mentioned it in the Bible study. But she said at like 4 or 5 years old, one, because her parents had a terrible marriage, that God told her she was going to be an author of a marriage book at like 4 or 5.
Wow.
She then had to go through, one, her husband passing away at like an early age, and he was in his 20s, left her with a couple of young kids. And then she found another husband, great guy, but they went through the turmoil. Again, God working it together for good. Then they wrote marriage books together, had a phenomenal marriage in the back. But she didn't write the book until she was in her 40s. And so she said, God told me at 4 that I would write books. I didn't write it till I was in my
Oh my
40s.
goodness.
So these things that we're told by God, like when I tell people, sometimes they'll reach out to me, they're like, dude, I'm going through the hardest pain of my life in my marriage. And I'm like, rejoice. That's what the Bible says, rejoice in our
Yeah, man.
sufferings, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I'm saying, I
James 1 and 2.
promise you, God will work this together for good.
Yeah.
And but it's just not going to come right now. You just have to use this pain and work it together for good. But if you're just looking for like, hey, 3 weeks from now, my marriage is going to be fixed, that's not how it's going to work.
No,
you know?
no. And I think that if you're married, if your view on marriage is divorce is not an option, then you'll always work towards reconciliation, right? So if you just get rid of the fact that you may have a get out of marriage free card, just throw that out the deck.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be here, so we need, in order for our existence, we need to come together.
Yeah.
And then you will take the first step, the second step, whatever step is necessary.
Because there's no plan B.
Right. We have to. So, and then there's times where you're taking more steps than your partner, and you just gotta keep stepping.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where your partner's taking more steps than you are, but all you're looking at is the distance between you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, are you still not doing this? Da, da, da. And then, hopefully if your partner is like my wife, she's going to tell you about yourself. Say, well, I've done this and this and that. And you're like, yeah, that is true. We're not expecting to be perfect, right? But we're expecting to get better. So I'm sure you provide a great service to those families, because the long view is what's needed. Like, we're going to be together forever. You know what I'm saying? So one of us is going to die first. So we have to keep that in mind as we going through this hard time. Is a hard time. It's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that you're in this, we're not getting divorced. There's none of that. The lady I just told you about, who said that, she was at 4 and then to 40, in her book, I'm listening to it right now, and that was one of her things. She says, that's what should be one of the rules, is this is forever. There's no like, well, we're going to do our darndest, but if it doesn't work out, like, I'm going to go.
Too easy.
It's too easy. And honestly, that's where God had to get me, because my identity for the first 39 years of my life, I had definitely some successes in my life, but I was a failure. Okay. One, because my dad had preached it over me to a certain extent. And two, I had the receipts to prove that I would quit, if I do these things. But when we moved to Vegas, I had to burn the boats. Like, I had to make it work. There was I had 2 mortgages, 2 kids, and a wife, and it was 3 months into COVID, and I had to make this work. And 0 income. There was no like other option. Vegas was the number one unemployed,
baby. And then once decisions made, now action can start to happen.
Yeah. And there's no quit.
They're right. Decision made. Like, this is what we're doing. And watching you, and I went running this yesterday morning, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just getting back into running, man. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. But, you running, you're looking at your watch, right? Like, how far did I run? How far did I run? Then I was like, I'm just going to run a half a mile. No stop, no whatever. I'm going to run. I'm not going to look back at it until I'm done. So then I'm just going to, you just run until a decision is made. And then the little alert goes off or whatever. We work better like that. When you have too many options or options to quit, then you're always got one hand on the pole trying to, not, instead of just jumping out. And so, like you said, burn the boats, bro. That's got to be, we didn't know it, but you actually burned the boats when you got married. You know what I'm saying? But somebody kept a little life raft trying to escape. Nah, man, we got to go all in.
Yeah.
And then our partner deserves it.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I guess my final question is, how do you, as you said a second ago, it's like sometimes they're dropping the ball and you're doing more work than them, or vice versa.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Because I'll tell you what, the number one objection that I get from men, whether that's in my comments or from men who don't sign up for the program or whatever, is, dude, it's her fault. She's the one who's doing all of that, which is never the truth. I don't care. Even if she really is the devil, you still play a part in what got her to be that devil. So when you take extreme ownership, I promise you, I've seen the craziest testimonies. But so my point with that being is, what would you say to that? What you had brought up about, like, hey, there's times when you are just doing more. How do you deal with resentment or frustration or anything like that, and not be like, yo, she needs to step it up because I'm getting mad now?
Well, a lot of times, I think us as men, we see ourselves as the leader until we get to a situation like that, and then we choose to see ourselves as the victim. And like, remember that if you're the leader eats last. The leader, although we lead from the front, you let the people go in front of you. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, you get the least, although because you have the most responsibility. So if you're the leader of the family, like as your role is defined to be, yes, you are setting the model. You are setting the expectation, and it will take time before people fall in line. Sometimes she might just be looking at you like, how long is he going to keep this up? You know what I'm saying? How long is he going to do this? And if you do it for 2 weeks and you expect a return, sorry, bro. I mean, the bank don't even give interest like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, is it 2 weeks? Now it's 2 months. Now it's 6 months. And then eventually your wife's going to have to look over and say, like, my man has changed. He has done what he said he's going to do. And when you have the communication without blaming, without pointing fingers, I think I was always taught like, kind of like those, when you do this, it makes me feel like that statements, so like if you did this, then this might happen. What do you think about that? And then you can have these statements to say like, not that you have to defend yourself, but you say, look, I've tried to put you first in this way. And that has occurred in me changing my behavior this way. We talked about you changing your behavior in a certain way. What do you think about that? I don't feel like you've done that. Is there something I'm missing? A lot of times we remove the benefit of the doubt from the person and we start to apply malice to their actions. Whew. Danger, major danger. Give the benefit of the doubt. And just remember, like, if you're the leader of the family, it's going to take a while for people to fall in order. You didn't get to where you were overnight. It didn't take 2 weeks to get there. And just like any diet, just like any debt, it usually takes longer to get out than it does to get back because gravity is strong, bro. You know what I'm saying? So you have to work harder, longer, consistently over time, just like everything else in the world. You got to plant these seeds, you got to water them. And your wife may not manifest the way you expect it to, but that's because you've never seen it. When she tells you this is what I'm doing, you listen and you accept and you appreciate because she is trying her best, even if it's not up to your standard. Because there's definitely an area where we're falling short that she may just be holding on to it because she doesn't want to dishonor what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I think as men, we just got to remember that we're the leader and we got to take all parts of that and don't selectively lead and selectively be a victim when all of a sudden your feelings are hurt. And then we operate out of emotion when we're talking about our wife. Like she's in charge of our emotional state and she's not. We're in charge of that.
Dude, that's the perfect way to end it because that was gold, bro. Man, I'm so thankful to have you in my life, bro. Like,
that's so true, man.
Yeah, you've just been such a huge blessing. It's just like it's just so cool because like what I said, I had to burn the boats to get here. I don't know you, I don't know the other guys. If anything, if I don't do that right, and same thing with things in your life that you had to do, and boom, 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 and it's just God's placing all these pieces, and we're just the beginning of seeing what the fruit is going to come of our Bible study and all of our lives.
It's so true, man. A quick story, real quick. I know you might have heard.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you post January 1st, I want to say maybe 2nd in 2023 in a Facebook feed. Hey, I'm looking for some men who want to do I actually go back to that like every 3 months. Look back at that post and I'm like, I denied that. I saw it and I was like, I remember being like, nah, I'm not that guy. I'm probably not brave enough or ready to change. Or I remember having that moment and stepping backwards and I guess which we might call cowardice at this point. But 8 months later, through Weston and Darina knowing my wife and got me into the circle, and I'm 8 months behind the way I look at it, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, this was meant to be. And now we know. I saw it and I just wasn't brave enough at the time to take that challenge. And every day that goes on now, you know what I'm saying? It's realizing that we have a band of brothers that we sharpen each other and we care for each other. We accountable to each other and we hold each other up to a standard that we don't beat each other over the head with, but we support from the bottom. We serve each other. That is the best thing that's happened in my life. Yeah.
That's well said, dude, because, and I'll challenge any of the men out there. If you don't have a group of men in your life, or if you have an opportunity to join a group of men, do it.
Do it.
And if you don't have it, started.
Started. Yes.
That was my
It
testimony
could
with
be
that
two other
post.
dudes. It could be
Dude.
two other dudes, but if you agree to the standard, and I'm talking about agreeing to something that just sets you a little bit above. Hey man, let me see your Instagram chats. Let me
Yeah.
see your DMs. Are you talking to ex-girls? Are you talking to this? Are you doing this or that? And we got to start sharing like, oh, now we stepping up. We are different from other men. We are Christian. We are God followers. The standard is high. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be perfect, but there's many things that we don't need to be doing. And you guys, Tommy, you're setting the standard every day, every way. And I'm proud to be your friend, man.
Well, thanks, brother. Yeah, likewise, man. You already know that. So,
Yeah.
well, cool, guys. Hope you guys, I know you guys enjoyed this one right here. This has been one of my favorite episodes so far for many different reasons. But what I want you guys to do is I want you, first, Theo, tell them how they can get a hold of you, because what you had told me about a couple of weeks ago was like, I think a question was like, if you could do anything and you wouldn't fail. Somebody in our group had posted, which was a phenomenal question, and you were talking about, having bigger platforms and things to be able to speak on, man. If this isn't confirmation that you need to be letting your voice and all of that on others, I don't know what is.
Okay.
Because I've had some big people on, and like, dude, you easily held the flame. It wasn't the basketball story where you were telling me at the beginning where you didn't belong on the court, which was before we hit record here, guys. You guys want to understand that, but you need to be people need to hear more of you, bro. So
thank you, man.
Yeah.
You reach out to me on Instagram. My personal training company is All for One Fitness Official. ALLFOR1, the number one, fitness and official. What we do is we train faith and fitness together. We help people get in shape through the principles of faith. You know what I'm saying? Discipline, joy, so you can have peace. We only get one body. You might get a lot of other things, but you only get one body. And God has given it to us to steward. And he's told us how to do it. And the same way the devil works in our money, the same way the devil works in our mind, he would definitely work in our bodies. And our society is not set up for us to really be abundant the way that we should. And so a lot of things that what you're talking about is having a group. That's what we do. Right now we work with, we're sponsoring kind of like, we work with like 2 football teams that I also run. We work with kids, but we also work with their parents as well. I have multiple clients who are athletes that I help them. I meet them once a week to work out and train them. But we're working on continuing to start a larger network, a larger group. So if you see that on Instagram or look for that, find me, get in touch. My main goal is to help lead everyone to Christ in some way, shape, or form, and to help you along your journey. So that's how you get in touch with me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, much love, y'all. God bless, and have a phenomenal day.